Hey, we're going to look at some tips for different problems that you can come across. We are going to focus on equations and area and volume with this section. So equations is how I want to start. First of all, you want to always make sure you define your variable. What that means is come up with a variable and tell me what it stands for. Next, you want to make sure you have an equal sign and some variable somewhere in your equation. So equations always have those two things. They always have an equal sign and a variable. You want to look for keywords such as total, which tells you where to put the equal sign. Per means multiply. And then our typical words like sum, difference. Sum means add, difference subtract. We have product, which is multiply, quotient, which is divide. So look for those keywords that you have been learning all year. Always, always, always show your work, no matter what. Even if it's something that you're just putting in the calculator, write it down on your piece of paper. Show your work, even if you think that it's something that you don't need to show. You better show it. Also remember, you are only combining like terms. Sometimes kids will put their variable plus or minus their constant, and we don't want to do that. We want to keep them separate. So we're going to look at a quick example for an equation. So here is an example where they ask you to write an equation and solve it. So starting off, we're going to preheat the oven for 10 minutes because we're going to make a roast. So the 10 minutes, a lot of people think, well, that's not actually part of my cooking time, but it is part of the cooking process. So we are going to add that 10 minutes into our amount of cooking time. Next it says place the roast in the oven, and we're going to cook it for 20 minutes per pound. So here's that keyword per. Per means multiply. So we have 20 times the number of pounds. I don't know how many pounds of roast you bought, so let's pick P for pounds. The next thing we see is last week it took a total of 90 minutes for Sarah to prepare her roast. So you see the word total. Total means equals. So it equals 90. So I have all my notes written by my information. Now I can start putting it together. So in part A, they first want us to define the variable we came up with. Well, here's my variable, P for pounds. So P equals pounds of roast. The next, if you are someone who struggles with coming up with what variable you're going to use, always look ahead to what they're going to be asking you. They ask what was the weight in pounds. So that's going to be what our variable is. So you also could have used W for weight. So always look ahead to just double check what your variable is going to be if you are someone who struggles with that. When we go to put our equation together, we always put the variable first. So I have 20 times P. So 20 times P. I got this plus 10, which was added for the preheating. Then I have it equals 90. Okay, so from there, in part B, we will actually solve the equation. So always remember to rewrite the equation you just came up with. One good thing about the equation part is your equation might be different than someone else's, but it still could be right. So you might have also come up with 90 minus 10 divided by 20. That's fine too, because those are actually the steps to solving it. So we made sure we had a variable, we have our equal sign. So those are two key components to an equation. When we go to solve it, remember always do the opposite of what we're doing. So instead of plus 10, we will minus 10. So 20p equals 80. And then instead of multiplying by 20, we divide by 20 to get p equals 4. So even though I wrote over here, I need to make sure I write over there. And notice I showed all of my work. It is very organized. The next part, we're actually going to use our information from part B to answer part C. So I'm buying 4 pounds of roast. They tell me that she's going to buy a third pound of potatoes for every pound of roast. So that means we're going to multiply the number of pounds of roast times the third pounds of potatoes to get 4/3. So this means I'm buying 1 1/3 pounds of potatoes because that's what 4/3 would simplify to. So it says it's 87 cents per pound, so multiply that by 87 cents. Remember, to do that, you can just do 4 divided by 3, then times 0.87, or you could do 4 times 0.87 divided by 3, which is $1.16. Next, we have this roast that costs $5.99 per pound. Here's that keyword per. Remember, per is multiply. So $5.99 times the number of pounds. According to Part B, I'm buying 4 pounds. $5.99 times 4 is $23.96. And then I'm not going to show the work for this because we need to move on, but you just add the two to get the total. So then the next thing we're going to talk about is area and volume. So if you are given a question where you have to find the area or volume of a 2 or 3-dimensional shape, we want to make sure we always write down our formula. So having the formula right there in front of you can really help you pinpoint, okay, here's my length, here's my width, here's my base, all that information. It's right there in front of you. It can help you keep you organized. Some people forget they have the option to use a reference sheet. It's given to you for a reason. Use it. Make sure that you label all parts of the problem. So keep it organized. Make sure you know what each number goes to. Sometimes you're given a pretty difficult drawing, which the next example we're going to look at, it is kind of more complex. If it helps, draw an easier picture. So I will show you how to make an easier picture if you're given a complex one. And you just want to make sure you measure it properly. And then whatever you put into your calculator, which we talked about at the very beginning, you need to make sure you write it down on the show all work section. So even though you put it in the calculator, the ISEP people don't know that. Write it down. Okay, so the example we're going to look at is finding the volume of this, which is apparently a stage made out of wax. So a lot of people, they will divide this up into 3 sections, like that. Oops. So you can divide it like that if you want, and you want to keep it organized again. Remember, I said you can make this an easier drawing if you want. So if you don't like how this looks, draw the 3 prisms separately. So if I drew my little left prism over here and make it look like what we're used to, it can be a lot easier to solve. So here, according to this, my height was 4, so the height's 4. My length was 4, so the length is 4. The width, going all the way back, is the same width as over here, so my width is 8. This picture looks a lot easier than this one. So you could draw a separate shape for each one and make it look like what you're used to. Remember I said to write down your formula. So since we're finding the volume of a rectangular prism, we're going to write volume equals length times width times height. And from there, it's pretty easy to see the length is 4, the width is 8, the height is 4. Multiply those together to get the volume of just this section. And then you want to still keep it organized. A lot of people, which is really good, they'll say, okay, here's my left shape, and then show the work. Here's my middle shape, show the work. Here's my right shape, show the work. So you can label it like this. You could also say, here's my small, medium, and big ones, but keep it organized. Don't just write a bunch of numbers and have it all over the place. Organize it. Once you find the volume of each section, we need the whole volume of the entire thing, so you add it together. And typically, the answer from one part is going to help you with the second part. So if we looked at part B, you would use whatever answer you got from A to figure out how much it would cost. Since we have 1 pound of wax, it's going to fill 30 cubic inches. I need to figure out how many pounds that would be, so I would divide this number by 30. I can only buy a 5-pound bag, so divide whatever number I got by 5. The wax was $8, so we always multiply the cost. So whatever we get times 8 would give us our answer. So make sure, just overall, that you show your work with these. That's what we want to see. So again, equations, we want to see our variable. We want to see an equal sign. Tell me what the variable stands for. Show all of your work. And look for those key words like total and per. For area and volume, use your reference sheet write down the formula, and keep it all organized, showing every little bit of work that you do. As long as you do that, you'll be good to go.